Welcome to Futbol the Europa podcast. This is your host Bliss, and today alongside me is Carlos once again. Welcome, Carlos. How are you?
Thank you for having me back. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. So today we are going to talk about a couple of issues, and as there was international break, so we'll talk about the national team starting from Germany. So, Carlos, how did you think that Germany is coping up with the post World Cup disaster?
Yeah, definitely they have rejuvenated since the World Cup has been over. I did feel in the World Cup itself they were too reliant on their older players, and I personally did not like the fact that Sane did not make that squad. I felt he completely deserved to make that squad, and the skill set that he had, which is like a raw pace and good dribbling skills, was something that Germany did not have at all for that World Cup squad. So I think he being back is very important for Germany. And also, I felt overall Germany has played much better. And Low, you have to give credit to Low. He took the hard decision of dropping a lot of his big players, Muller and other players, especially. So you have to give him a lot of credit for trying to make up a new squad with a lot of new players. Maybe the only criticism that I can give them is that I still expected Ter Stegen to start over Neuer. I don't understand what more he needs to do to start over Neuer. That was weird for me.
Yeah, I actually saw a meme on Facebook which said that Barca's first choice goalkeeper is starting on the bench for Germany, and Barca's third choice keeper is starting for Netherlands.
Netherlands, yes,
Yep.
Klaassen. that was funny.
It is funny, and I think Germany has now creating a new system. They are taking hard decisions now. Lowy is justly starting Sane and other youngsters over the veterans, I guess. So, like, they have made it an objective that they will revolutionize German national team before the 2020, and it seems to be working so far.
Yeah, I think they're going to start a new cycle similar to how they started in 2006. It'll be a whole new cycle where they'll have newer players, and where they don't have the burden of already having won the World Cup or having a lot of expectations. So you'll see a lot of new players come into the squad, and I think it's going to mirror a lot of what Bayern is going to do, Bayern Munich, because even their own squad they're going to revamp. So they'll focus a lot within their league to get a lot of German young players. And a lot of other young players within the league. So the fact that both are doing it simultaneously will eventually help German football.
That is quite true. So, what do you think about the two non-traditional strikers which they started? Because Sane isn't really a pure goal poacher or something like that. He's more of a attacking mid kind of a play, I guess.
More of an attacking.
More of a winger, or yeah. So,
I think
were you surprised to see him as a striker?
I was surprised that they did play him as a striker as such. I figured that they would play maybe Werner. I felt is like more suited as a more proper number 9. But yeah, credit to him for whatever he thought was right for that squad right now, and maybe even he does not know what he wants yet. So it might be there's a little bit of trial and error probably in this. He chose a big game also to do this, because Netherlands is not the easiest team in that group. And he did take a risk. So yeah, I felt it was very unlow like, if you ask me.
Yeah, that is true. So let's move on to Argentina. So they lost to Venezuela 3-1, and then Venezuela lost to Catalonia, and that is quite a moment of outrage for the Argentinian fans, for the Argentine as a nation. And Maradona went on to saying that these players don't deserve to wear the shirt. So, and Messi responded yesterday or last night, I should say, that there are a lot of lies spoken. We give all for the shirt and all that stuff. So, what is your take on that?
It's not very surprising. I mean, they've been Argentina as a squad has been has been very poor since the World Cup of 2014, I would say. Their squad has been gradually declining. Um, the two, they're a very lopsided squad. Even not just the players that they have. If you think of their overall talent in Argentina, it's very lopsided. They have a lot of number 10s or attacking type players without enough good midfielders, good defense, or defensive players that they have. So they don't have the right balance at all. Like they have zero balance, and they're too flooded in one direction. So it's not surprising that they played badly. I felt because of what happened in the Copa America with Messi retiring and all the issues that came because of that, he didn't get enough credit for actually bringing Argentina to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Too without a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened in the World Cup was nothing too surprising, I would say. Argentina was riding on Messi and the hope that Sampaoli would be amazing or would be the Sevilla type coach that he was.
Yeah, that's true.
And basically, one player alone will not win anything, and that's going to continue unless they have a good enough squad. So it's nothing really new. I feel bad for Messi in the sense that there's a lot of pressure put on him. And there are certain things that he could do better from his side. I think he should relinquish his captaincy. I don't think so. He's the leader of the squad. I don't think so. That's what he does best. And I think he should give that to somebody else who.
Yeah, earlier there was debate about Mascherano, and
I feel Mascherano was already the captain in the 2014 World Cup.
Yeah,
he
even
was before that. So
he was.
Anyhow, Mascherano I think is retired now. So basically, I still feel that Messi should have not taken the captaincy role. It's not what he does best.
Yeah, and another topic or another debate which surprises me is that people say that Messi doesn't play for Argentina with his heart, or he plays half-heartedly, or he fakes injuries and all that stuff. That's ridiculous to me. The man could have played for Spain. He could have won the World Cup for Spain with Spain, and he chose to stay with Argentina. He still tries to come back. He still tries to play in the playoff matches. Like against Nigeria, he scored a hat-trick, I guess. And against Nigeria in World Cup group stages, he scored a goal. So it's like he's trying his best, and we shouldn't really doubt his professionality, because that's not what a professional player would do. He wouldn't fake injuries or do pick and choose his particular friends for the national team or stuff like that at the expense of a World Cup or a trophy, and especially for a country like Argentina, which is so obsessed with the game and with the history they have. And maybe even even comments from Maradona don't really help much, because I guess, like Zlatan said about Manchester United and class of 92, like, it's okay, you have your time, you had your time, you proved yourself, you had your legacy, but now you go on to bash the current players and you go on to criticize. That's not really helping much.
Yeah, I felt, like you said, Messi has been castrated a lot along the entire process of Argentina's World Cup attempts, and he's not done too bad, I would say, in the World Cup, at least in the 2014 World Cup. I know in terms of goals wise in the knockout stage, he's not been great, but if you think of overall 2014 World Cup, he was good. It's not his fault that he was given the golden ball. He didn't deserve it, but it's not his fault he was given it. So I don't know, he gets castrated a lot for all that happened to him. Regarding Maradona, I think even Maradona should have, obviously he's a very arrogant person to say the least. He's a person who likes to build himself up. So I feel he should look. Yes, you had a great part in Argentina's history in getting them the World Cup, but there's a lot of ifs and buts in that. If his hand of God goal was disallowed, maybe they would have never gone through the quarterfinals and you would not have won anything. Not to mention he had a great squad around him. He had Valdano and he had a couple of good midfielders. It's not the same as the current squad that Messi has around him. Messi's best squad was in the 2014 World Cup, and even in that particular World Cup, I don't think they were favorites to win or reach the finals or anything like that. It's just that was a better balanced squad that they had at that point of time, which is something that he does not have now. And I don't, like you said, I don't see the point of him, being unprofessional or doing or just coming to Argentina and playing for the sake of it. I mean, if he retired once, he came back to a lot of ridicule. He literally got them into the World Cup of 2018, And he still continues to be there for to help them to the next Copa America and the next World Cup. So definitely, I think he's very integral to Argentina. Just thinking about the Zlatan comments that you mentioned. So I was just thinking about that. I did find it strange that Zlatan brought this up, just purely because he's the kind of person who can take criticism, and not only take criticism, he fuels it to do better, and like he likes to shut people up, I would say. But I feel that if you look at it, if you think about it, this is kind of like an or consequence of the globalization of EPL, I would say. Look at EPL and compare it to other leagues. I think EPL is right now broadcasted through Sky Sports, BT Sports, ITV. I think there are at least 3-4 channels that broadcast them.
Yeah.
Each of them need to have their own pre-game show, post-game show, stuff like that. If you compare it to say teams, say in Spain or Italy or something like that, there are not that many shows, and there are very few old players who are part of these shows. Like Real Madrid has a huge history, a lot of Spanish players. Barcelona has a huge history, a lot of Spanish players. How many of these players do you see actually participating in shows like this? None. But in England, you see a lot of them, and unfortunately for them, most of these players happen to be Manchester United players. It's just that
and Liverpool players.
But Liverpool players are also fewer, I would say. I agree there are ex-Liverpool players, but now they are more fewer, and even it's mainly Carragher and
Lineker.
Lineker is not ex-Liverpool though.
He is.
Lineker is not ex-Liverpool. He used to play for Leicester City, I believe.
He did play for Liverpool, I guess.
Okay,
I'll just check it up.
There was also Jamie Redknapp. Those are the only two Liverpool players that I can remember off heart. I mean, off the top of my head. But the rest of them are mainly Manchester United players. So you have Scholes, Neville, both the Neville brothers, and Giggs. And from time to time, even Butt has spoken. So Ferdinand, yes. So that's a lot of players from Manchester United who speak. They're not incorrect in their analysis in whatever they say, but maybe they overdo it.
Lineker hasn't played for Liverpool.
Right.
Sorry.
That's fine. So these players are not incorrect in analysis, and they're just doing their job. So it's just I feel Manchester United are very unlucky in this particular scenario because the core of their best players are all pundits now. Most of them are actually failed managers also. Some of them,
as Jose says.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that that's a jab against them. I mean,
yep.
You don't need to be. I don't know. You don't need to be Alex Ferguson to comment on somebody else's managing skills.
That's true.
So I'm just saying that they're just very very unlucky that a lot of these pundits are from their club, and the club is not going through the best side. That's all.
Yeah.
So I think Zlatan's comments, considering his mentality, I don't think so. He should have lashed out against it. It doesn't actually help also in any way.
Yeah, actually, it's not like Zlatan came out and said it on Twitter or said it abruptly. It was like the journalist must have asked him, but what do you feel about the criticism of ex-players and so. So yeah, they instigate the players to speak up, and that's what feeds the media. Coming back to Maradona comments, I guess Maradona and Pele are kind of a players who are a bit insecure about their legacy compared to Messi and Ronaldo, because I sometimes, with all due respect to Maradona and Pele, who have been the phenomenal players of the generation and will remain the legends. Even our grandkids will be taught about Maradona and Pele and what all they have achieved with their squads and the phenomenal World Cup achievements. But sometimes I think that Maradona also failed as a manager with Argentina, and he has never really been criticized for that. He has never really been open about that. And if you are criticizing the squad, if you are criticizing the system, you should also take blame for yourself, because you also had this squad, you also had Messi in your squad, and you couldn't really do much about it. And
I would say he had a better squad.
Yeah, indeed he had.
In 2010, I would say he had a better squad.
Yeah, but they also lost to Germany.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they also lost to Germany. But losing to Germany in the final 1-0 isn't really that much of a... It's a badge of honor, I guess.
I think they lost 4... Didn't in 2010?
No, I'm talking about the 2014 World Cup.
Yeah, but I think when Maradona played, was the coach, I think they lost by 4 goals or something.
Yeah, that was a huge difference. I guess 4-0 or 3-1 or something like that. So moving on to Cristiano Ronaldo, who is also injured right now, and he says that he will come back for Ajax game, but what do you think about that?
I think it looks like he has a muscular injury. I'm not sure the exact injury that he has, the exact definition, but it seems like a muscular injury which normally takes around 2 to 3 weeks. 2 weeks, I think. I think he will be there on the bench. Uh, I'm not sure he'll play, but I'm pretty sure he'll be there on the bench.
Yeah, but he played against Atletico Madrid in 2014 Champions League final with injections and stuff. So I guess he can go to that extremes for
I
match of
think
this magnitude.
I think he's become a little more wiser since then. Obviously, that's a Champions League final, so there's a difference. I think here, because there's one more leg left, and this is the quarterfinal, and it is Ajax. I don't think he will risk it unless it's totally worth it.
Yeah, but is it away leg or home leg?
Uh, I don't think so. The leg over here matters because Juventus are a good enough team to beat Ajax, and I think it's the away leg first.
Possibly, but I think Ajax are the dark horses and may end up lifting the Champions League this time because
Yeah, because
it
there's one
is.
more leg left. I think he will.
Yeah,
he
he
won't risk
he may
it
not
right
risk
now.
it. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Com-
Yeah, after seeing that hat trick, Atletico Juventus won't be much worried about Cristiano missing one leg. So moving on to other UCL fixtures, like Barcelona are going to face United, and United have appointed Solksjaer as their permanent manager, and players like Rashford were the ones who were very happy to have him back as a permanent manager. So, what's your thought on that?
Um, I don't really think United had much of an option. Obviously, he has a great record as an interim manager. And realistically, I'm thinking who their realistic options were.
Pochettino.
But but Pochettino has already signed a contract and it's on a 5-year deal. To get him will cost you 40-45 million, and it's not like United don't need a squad overhaul. They need a huge squad overhaul. Even whoever they get, they definitely need one centre back. Though they definitely need maybe even two. Uh, they could need a couple of backups in terms of their fullbacks. They would need, depending on what they do with Lukaku, they might need a striker. They might, at least if they sell him also, they would need at least a backup for Rashford or something like that. They would also need a couple of midfielders also. So they have a couple of players positions that they need to fill. So I felt. First of all, even if it wouldn't be easy to get Pochettino, even if you were ready to pay the buyout clause. That's not. I don't think so. There's a buyout clause, but whatever is the clause to basically terminate the contract. So I don't think so. That would have been easy in the first place, and they really don't have much of a choice. So I would say it made sense to finish the speculation and do it right now, because most clubs would start their planning for the next season's transfers probably by March, I would say, because by the time you need to get a feel of whether players want to come, what their rates are, what the wages would be, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it'd start by March, and by March, if you don't know who your coach is going to be next season, you're basically doing this, in a blinded way. Because you buy players, if you negotiate with players, and the new coach doesn't want, or the new manager doesn't want them, or vice versa, you have problems. So from that perspective, since they don't have any realistic option, and because Solskjaer has such a good record, they had to keep him. Having said that, it's still, I think, a very short-term thing. I don't think this thing will continue. I would term Solskjaer as a man manager. He's been able to get the best out of the current squad, which is basically a top 4 squad. They're not a winning squad. I don't think so. They have it in them to go and beat Liverpool or Man City. Of course, the squad can be improved. They can get a lot of players. But if you do get a lot of good players and say a good enough squad on paper that can compete with Liverpool and Man City, are you sure Solskjaer is the guy who could win you the title? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's more about luck. Like Messi was talking in his interview last night. He said that I was looking at Spain, and Spain had luck against Paraguay in penalties, and they had luck against Netherlands in the final. And I guess Solskjaer has some luck on his side, but I don't know how long will that luck last, because for the season-long titles, you really need to be consistent on a regular basis. You need to perform week in and week out, and that's what Zidane's side was suffering from his last La Liga campaign, because they couldn't keep that consistency. And even though they won 3 Champions League titles in a row, but it wasn't really a much consistent side to watch.
That's interesting because I feel most of the people who are pro Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they try to say that Pep was nothing before he started Barcelona, and Zidane also was not much known before he took over Real Madrid. But they were two completely, like in Real Madrid's case, he already had a world class squad, so it's not the same scenario in Manchester United. And in terms of Pep was very clear in his thought process of what kind of football he wants to play, what type of football he wants to play, and he probably wanted to be a manager and studied to be manager maybe 10-15 years before he actually became one. So I think that comparison is premature, and I don't think so.
You cannot really compare Pep Guardiola with Ole, because Pep Guardiola let players like Ronaldinho go because he was like, okay, Ronaldinho, thank you so much for your services, but we are starting a new project and we need new players. So it was a very bold decision by a coach who is just starting his career. And maybe after the season commences, and we'll see a new side of Ole's, because it doesn't really make sense to make major changes within the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see after the transfer market how it goes. But as of now, I don't really see a tactical side. As Luis Van Gaal said, it isn't really much of a Ferguson type of side. Even though the results may deviate it a bit, the results may make you feel that Ole is doing great or something. But I don't see a side which is very competent or very superior to other teams. It's just like sometimes you get a goal, sometimes you win the match, but it's not really enough. It's not really a compelling performance. It's not really a satisfying performance.
I didn't get Van Gaal's comments completely because I felt they played better than they played under Mourinho, in the sense that they played with a little more pace, with a little more invention. Like they played with a little more desire. I felt at least they played a little more on the front foot. There were games, of course, they definitely defended against big teams like PSG, against Arsenal, against Tottenham. I think they did defend and play on the counter attack. But against other teams, I think they played a little more better. But that's again, I think just because of the chemistry between the players and the coach. It is nothing. It's not. I don't think so because.
See, I don't see defensive tactics as a negative side of football. I see it as a pragmatic approach, because if you know that team is superior and you know their attackers are really great and you need to defend them, it's really a great tactic, because Mourinho was also considered one of the best managers ever because of his defensive style, and the way he managed Inter Milan is one of the best teams in the history of the football. And I don't see a problem with defensive tactics, but it's not really much of a tactical shift from Mourinho's side to Ole's side. That's what my point is. Yeah.
It is
so
not.
Like Carlo Ancelotti and Zinedine Zidane were benefited from the team and tactics built by Jose Mourinho. Like
Correct.
Still till the current date, 7 players of Real Madrid squad are from Jose Mourinho's era.
They still follow also a lot of his counter-attacking and stuff.
Yep. It's pretty much the same, because even in the 2017 UCL final, you see the goals were scored by counter-attacking against Juventus. It wasn't really that much of a tiki-taka, or it wasn't really that much of crossing and stuff. It was typical Jose Mourinho identity, and that's what I think Ole Gunnar Solksjaer is doing right now. He's not getting his own identity. He's not implementing anything new. He's just like, okay, we'll get over the season. We just have to need to focus on each game. We have to finish as high as possible, and after the summer, we'll see how it goes.
I don't think so. He has a full-fledged identity. Also, he's trying to bring a lot of how he used to play, with a lot of what the current squad has, which is basically how Jose used to play. So he doesn't have his own identity completely.
Yeah.
We'll know next season.
Yeah, I remember when Mourinho joined United, he said that the club bought players which I'd never buy, and club sold players which I'd never sell. So it's a very difficult situation for me right now, but I'll try to do what I can do. And when he was about to get sacked, the season started, and he said, you just may as well call me head coach now, because I'm not really the manager. I'm not really in charge of the signings and departures. And
I didn't understand what they did. I didn't understand why. I don't understand the management decision. They extended his contract last season, his second season.
Yeah.
And the third season they did not back him. So either it is very weird. You either back him or you sack him. They should have done that in the second season. Either you should, if you're backing him, then you should back him completely.
That's true.
Also sacked him in the second season after they came second.
That's what Gary Neville said. And Jose wanted some players, and I don't know why United weren't interested in buying them, but they'll eventually have to buy the players Ole says. And
it's still the same position if you think about it.
Yeah, that's
even Ole wants a centre back.
Exactly.
He needs one for sure.
Exactly.
Ideally two.
So that's what the point is that if you had spent earlier with Jose, you wouldn't have to through all this mess right now. And now you're back to square one, and you have to do it all again with Ole.
True. I mean, the main signings that he did not get was the Perez signing, the left winger, and the centre back. So I think
yeah, Harry Maguire was the person.
and Harry Maguire, basically the centre back. So
Yep.
so I'm saying these signings are still important to away. The only good thing about I think maybe Jose Mourinho left was that they were able to keep on Martial. That's the only thing I feel.
Yep, that is true. So moving on to other UCL matches now. Which match do you want to talk about?
The only worthwhile match I think is the Barcelona and the Manchester United one. I think Pool will easily win. Between City Tottenham also City will easily win. And I think Juventus will. I think Juventus should win. I don't think Ajax will be able to knock out two big heavyweights in succession.
I don't know. I see it like Inter Milan's season in 2010 or Porto's season in when they won the Champions League. Like it was in early 2004, I guess.
Ajax is currently
2004,
playing closest to the last Ajax team that won the Champions League. It was in '95, I believe. That time Kluivert, Seedorf were all youngsters.
Yeah, I guess it will be perfect for the youngsters in Ajax who are about to leave. Like Dale, it is leaving, I guess.
De
Frankie
Jong
De Jong
gone.
is already gone, and there are a couple of players who will be, if they win the Champions League, they will be on their way out, and it will be a perfect way for Ajax to start recognizing that we should enter as the Europe's elite teams now, because we are currently serving as Europe's academy like Dortmund was. Yeah, and I really don't like the fact that Barcelona is trying to get them into this contract that we will give you the players to train, and we will buy the players from you, and we will have the. I understand the relationship and the Cruyff tradition which they share and all that, but I don't
see
think.
what Ajax gains from this.
Yeah, exactly. Ajax really
Like I think in that contract they would lose transfer value.
exactly, and I think it's high time that Ajax needs to uh, pull things up and say, put their hands down and say that okay, we are not going to be pressed down by the big clubs. We will emerge as a big club ourselves, and we will let the players develop and play for the club instead of preparing players to play for other big clubs like Barcelona or some other team.
Van der Sar has been doing a very good job at Ajax. I was thinking maybe uh, Manchester United will look at pulling him into their senior management.
They should, because Ed Woodward isn't really doing much of a good job right now. So, do you want to talk about anything else right now?
In terms of the UCL, I think my picks are still the same. Did not change from when I last spoke to you. City, Pool, Juve, Barca. And I see a lot of interesting final potential. Like I said, City, Barca, Juve, Barca, Ronaldo versus Messi finally in the finals. Would be
Yeah, coming
interesting.
over to Ronaldo versus Messi, did you read the comments of Messi regarding Ronaldo?
It made sense, you know. I've always said this. They are lucky and unlucky to be playing together at the same time. They're lucky because it's because of each other that they're reaching amazing heights. I mean, imagine Ronaldo if he had no competition for like 50 goals. The 50 goals seems a lot because Messi scores almost at the same rate while giving assists, and you know 3 UCLs means a lot because Messi cannot win that many UCLs for so long.
Exactly.
So I feel like, you know, but at the same time, if the other person was not there, like he would win. There would be 9 or 10 Ballon d'Or seats.
Yeah, that's what Jose said.
So
And like, what I think is if on Wednesday Messi scores a hat trick, on Sunday Ronaldo will score a hat trick. It's like that kind of a motivation and push, and because media hypes it up, you are under pressure, and of course there's rivalry in Ballon d'Ors and all the stuff, and they really push each other. And I guess it's a positive side for fans of football because they can compare them against each other in the contemporary times. Otherwise, we would be comparing like Maradona and Pele, like two different generations and stuff. And it's good that we have them all together. We have them playing against each other, and maybe in one charity match we could put them in the same team and fulfill the dreams of all the football fans around the world.
that'd be very, very interesting.
Yep. And for those of our listeners who are living under a rock, let me tell you that Messi said the best players without him would be Hazard, um, Neymar, Suarez,
and Mbappe, I think.
and Mbappe, and
And he said, I don't consider Cristiano in this because
because he's
he's in a
alongside
different
me.
level. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a different
I'll
level.
I'll put him alongside me. So yep. Were you going to say something?
Nah, I was just saying that the fact that they both are on a status, they're on a different level, and I don't think so ever in football there has been such dominance by two players over a decade, and I doubt it'll ever happen again.
That is true. That is true. So moving on, there's a very important event happening in football. We are entering into a new era of football, and women's football is emerging as a very prominent field, and it's really a proud moment as a football fan because I guess sports is an area which reflects onto our society, which we inculcate in our everyday lives, and if the women's football in general is on a uprise, then it is better for our society as well. And lately, Atletico versus Barcelona women's match in Wanda Metropolitano was a record attendance of 60,000, I guess 60,000, 65,000. There are several reports, but it was a sold out stadium. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely women's football is on the rise. Of course, they do suffer, unfortunately, from the influx of money that's poured into men's football. So because of that, they get overshadowed a lot. There's been a lot of conversation, especially in the US football teams, or rather national level football teams, in terms of the amount that the soccer federation pays to female footballers is much less compared to those of the male footballers. In spite of the fact that USA generally wins the World Cup, Women's World Cup, like multiple times.
Yeah, that is true.
So on those levels, I feel women's football is a little handicapped in terms of how the money that is put into them. And I'd like to see more and more clubs have their own women's teams. Right now, I think there are very few clubs that have their own women's team. It'd be good for all big clubs to have their women's team.
They usually have the women's team because Manchester City has, PSG has, Juventus has.
But a lot of them have only started from recently, and like for example, Real Madrid does not have.
Yeah, Real Madrid doesn't have, but Perez is continuously saying that we are thinking over it, or we'll just adopt another team which is already existing women's team, and we will inculcate them into Real Madrid women's team and something like that.
I heard he wanted to. There was a point where he wanted to have create the women's team within Real Madrid, not buying out some other team.
Yeah.
And I think he had set a budget of 10 million to get players. I was like shocked. 10 millions would get you a squad of women.
But it wouldn't be like the first class squad because he said that I'm building it from the base, like academy. Yeah. Academy, okay. So if he gets under 14 women, and that's pretty good. For 10 million, it's pretty good because they already have the training facilities and all that stuff for the other, and they can share it. So
it'll be interesting for them if more and more clubs get into it, because I feel clubs at the end of the day are most responsible for football development.
Yep.
Because they they have their own academies, they take from a younger age, and basically they either train them to play for them or get money from sales of players.
Yep.
So I think it's important for clubs to have players or women's teams, and for them to get some sort of funding or encouragement from their local governments, which would help basically women's team to flourish all across Europe, and basically the rest of the football community. It'd be interesting to see how good they play. I've been a big fan of Martha ever since. Very little I've seen of her, but I've been a big fan of Martha compared to most of the US players. I've loved Martha a lot.
Yep.
I think I don't think she's won a World Cup. I feel she's unlucky not to win a World Cup. But I absolutely love the way she plays. She reminds me a little bit of like Ronaldinho.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. And also to mention that Juve women also played in Allianz Stadium against Bologna, I guess. I don't know which team it was, but it was a sold out stadium. Like Juventus Stadium has attendance of 40,000. It was 38,000 or something, so it was nearly sold out.
That's nice.
Yep. So moving on to transfer rumors, like I guess 25 players are rumored to join Real Madrid this summer. Pogba, Sane, Pjanic, Eriksson, Icardi,
Rabiot's the newest
Mbappe,
one.
Rabiot, Neymar. So I just saw a meme and someone posted on Facebook. It said like Real Madrid's starting 11 next season will be one goalkeeper, which is De Gea, because they want to exchange Courtois, and then they placed two midfielders
And like 10 strikers.
and then like 7 or 8 strikers like Icardi, Mbappe, Neymar, Kane, and I don't know. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So who is really joining, or who do you really want to join?
So I was okay. This is what I think is an ideal would be an ideal squad for next year. And by ideal over here, I mean it only from the perspective of transfers that is possible based on the money involved and the possibility of signing players. So I would like Courtois and Lunin to stay. In the right back position, I would not make any changes. Carvajal and Audrey to stay. And in terms of centre backs, obviously Varane, Ramos, Milicia, and Nacho. In the left back position, I would sell off Marcelo. Not because he's bad, it's just that I think he's reached that stage where we need to rejuvenate. So I'd like to see Theo come back and probably Reguilon stay. It would be nice to see the competition between them and on who will take the starting spot. Modric and Ceballos, Casemiro and Llorente, Cruz and Isco as basically the midfield options. And up front, I would like to see James and Asensio, Icardi and Benzema, and Hazard and Vinicius. Which basically means three of Zidane's favorite players, I'm hoping will be sold, which is Navas, Marcelo, and Lucas. Which means I'm hoping that either Zidane changes or I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. And how do you see Hazard and Vinicius playing in the same squad? Because you will either sacrifice Hazard's career or either sacrifice Vinicius' career, because they both are not really the place to bench right now.
I think Hazard's sale is pretty much confirmed. So, either Vinicius will have to, share time with him. I don't think so. Vinicius' career will be affected that much by Hazard, because at the end of the day, I'm not really sure how good Hazard will be at Bernabeu. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a very good player. But at the end of the day, he's played in Chelsea for a long time where he's been inconsistent. And when I say inconsistent, he's had very good seasons followed by very bad seasons. But if you notice, the Chelsea fans have always appreciated him. Whether he's scored 10 goals, 15 goals, or 0 goals in a season, no assists, nothing he's done, they've always appreciated him. He's not going to get that sort of appreciation in Real Madrid. If you don't score in 2 games or 3 games, if 3 bad games, he's going to be booed like anything. I'm not sure whether he has the mentality to take that.
Yeah, and another thing which I was reading a book about Real Madrid, and it said that Florentino Perez only chooses people for the administration who are not really fan of football, because he doesn't want them to be dragged by emotions and get into the awe of big plays and big signings and all that stuff. So it removes that emotional blindfold from the person's eyes, and they make very rational decisions after that. So seeing his track record, he's not really purchased any player who has been begging to join Real Madrid. Do you remember any sale? Aubameyang, he didn't sign him. Hazard, he didn't sign him.
But I think he will sign Hazard, because at the current point, Hazard, like, everything points towards the deal. He has 1 year left on his contract. You can get him for a good price.
Yeah.
And we need a left.
Also to add Lewandowski in that
True,
list,
Lewandowski also.
because he also tried to get into Real Madrid a couple of times and he wasn't. And all the players who weren't really rumored to join or who weren't really open about joining Real Madrid have been.
But Courtois was.
Courtois was open after the deal was already done.
Courtois was always open about coming to Madrid from a long time. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it was not really for joining Real Madrid as per se. It was like coming back to Atletico Madrid or something.
His issue was the daughter. His daughter was in Madrid and he wanted to come back to Madrid. He knew Atletico Madrid would never purchase him because they already have Jan Oblak and they will not be able to basically pay the transfer fee.
But Real Madrid were already on the verge of signing David De Gea, but it fell apart, and then it was Kepa, and so it wasn't really the first choice thing which happened. It was like, okay, now the first pecking order has been eliminated from the list, and now we go on to the next person, who was Courtois. But it's really rare that Perez goes for a person who is already open about joining Real Madrid. I don't know what's his thought process is, or is it just a coincidence with the decisions which they consider and which they make? But it's it's
I mean,
interesting to me.
Cristiano Ronaldo. He was very open about joining Real Madrid.
Yeah, but Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't really signing of Perez. He was of
Technically,
Calderon. Yeah, so
Hmm.
Perez just didn't want to be the villain who cancelled that signing, and Jose Anel Sanchez allowed him to
I'm
think
sure he
rationally.
wanted Cristiano. I'm just saying that I think he dealt with the deal better. I read rumors that Calderon negotiated a bad deal with Cristiano where
Yeah,
the image rights were
yeah,
lesser.
something like that happened because Perez was thinking about another some more players. I don't remember the names, and it was like he was thinking about he was he didn't want to sign a player who wasn't on his identity or Cristiano is still related that as Calderon signing, so he didn't really want that to happen. He wanted that I should sign a player and it would have my stamp on it, like David Beckham or maybe Kaka, Figo, and other such players. So like Mourinho as well. So he just wanted that it should be explicitly my signing and all that stuff. So I read an article which said like Cristiano Ronaldo was a uh, foster child of Perez who he didn't want or adopted son of Perez or something like that. So it
No.
was quite yeah. I don't believe in that truly, but to some extent it is that Perez doesn't really sign players who are very explicit about joining Real Madrid.
But I still see Hazard signing happening because we definitely need him. And that's the most.
You are also related with Jovic, even Barcelona also.
Oh yeah, we are
Yeah.
being linked to, but I don't.
But you are linked to 25 players as I said. So
No, but I'm not sure whether we linked to Jovic because his agent or Jovic's agent is also the agent for Pjanic and Kubali. With some recent talk of Varane leaving, that's also possible. I don't think Varane
Yeah,
will
but
actually leave. I think
Varane just shut up those rumors. He said, I want to stay at Real Madrid, and just because I don't speak so openly doesn't mean that media should violate my image and all that stuff.
But even after he said that, people are still linking.
Obviously,
so I
they will
still think it's
always
just a
link.
money thing. I think he wants a new contract, which he will get. So I don't really see him leaving. But I'm just saying that overall, also, like, even though I said these are realistic signings that can happen, which when I mentioned the squad in terms of transfer fees, basically all the players that I spoke about leaving are Zidane's favorites, and the other person I told was about Icardi, who I want as a replacement to Benzema. Not a replacement, like where Icardi will be the first choice striker and Benzema would be second. I can't see that happening also. So if I can't see Icardi replacing Benzema, I cannot see Jovic replacing Benzema.
That is interesting.
And I think Jovic will be courted by Bayern Munich also. So he would rather go to Bayern Munich because he's likely to be a first choice striker. With either this season or next season, because I think they may sell Lewandowski and then come over here probably. Yeah, I mean it depends. If he has the vibe for Real Madrid and he wants to come here, that's a different case. But still, I think I'm not really sure which side Zidane. Like, this is new territory for Zidane. He does not have Cristiano Ronaldo. He does not have he does not have the same star power. And even in the last time he had the star power, he barely won the UCL. So he'll have to change, is what I think. I just don't know how much he'll change.
That's what I think he's back for, because he knew when he couldn't do stuff and he left, and now he's back. I hope and I guess that he knows what he's doing and he has a clear blueprint of what he has to do.
Yeah, I think he must have decided to change. Otherwise, I don't see why he would come back.
Yeah.
He is pretty sure that he couldn't continue what he was doing before. So if he's coming back, unless it's like a pure emotional decision, which is not Zidane-esque. He's not a person he's not the kind of person who seems to make emotional decisions. So I think he has something in his mind, and at least he must have accepted that he needs to change. I just don't know how much he needs to change that he has accepted.
Seeing at his career, he left on a high as a player and as a manager, and I guess if it is time to do something which is for the best interest in the team and for the player as well, he will be really open to Marcelo or Navas or anyone who is willing to leave. That see, it is better to leave on a high note. It's better to leave gracefully. So don't wait to be benched or don't wait to be picked out by the fans and stuff. So just make way for the youngsters. But I don't see it happening right now because I think Marcelo and Navas are very integral to the team, and let's see what happens. But it can happen because he is a kind of a manager who can ask the players to leave gracefully because he led by example, and he did the same with his national team, with his club, and as a manager with Real Madrid again.
Finally, both Navas and Marcelo would easily fit into the Juventus squad. Because I feel Navas is a better keeper than Chesney, and Sandro I think is currently better than Marcelo. But I think they may take Marcelo because of his relationship with Cristiano Ronaldo and what they bring on the pitch. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it will be. So I think another team which is in the same boat as Real Madrid is Bayern Munich, who just signed Lucas Hernandez, the brother
Reportedly for 80 million.
Brother for the Hernandez.
They smashed their transfer record. I think their transfer record before this was 41 million for Tolisso last season or the season before.
Yeah. So, do you see Kovac staying in Bayern Munich? Because I don't really see it happening right now.
No, I don't see Kovac staying.
But why are they making signings before they have the new manager? Because either they have the manager in contact and he said okay.
Probably. But generally Bayern Munich, whoever is the new manager, they still need to overhaul the squad. And whoever is the new manager, they need to overhaul the squad. And the main thing still remains that over here that because they need to overhaul the squad, and they are not the kind of club that spends 200-300 million every time. So this time when they spend it, they'll spend it on younger players. And I think Bayern is also the kind of club where the coach kind of listens to you rather than the other way around. They're given that freedom only to Pep, I feel.
That is true. But Pep Guardiola also couldn't win the Champions League for them. But I don't know how it happened, but it happened.
Pep Guardiola, I think his philosophy does not work best with seasoned players or little more, older players. His philosophy works best with younger players, because you need to completely submit to him, and he's not an easy person to submit to because he demands a lot. So maybe for a little more accomplished player, maybe they won't like such a difficult taskmaster.
Yeah, that is true. We talked about it in the last podcast as well, and that is quite true. So moving on to Jose Mourinho, because if you talk about Pep, you have to talk about Jose Mourinho. It's the norm. So he recently said that I want to win a new league in the new country. So does that mean he's moving to Germany or to France?
I don't think he's moving to France because I think they will give Tuchel one more year. Germany is possible, but I'm not really sure. So this is what I would say. Niko Kovac is a poor man's Jose Mourinho, if you ask me. So they might as well as get the real man if they want him. And he could do good with that squad maybe. I mean, but it would take a lot of convincing, in terms of, because he has a damaged reputation right now.
I think if Jose Mourinho arrives at Bayern Munich, he will revamp the squad, because I don't see him getting along with the players who are right now into the Bayern Munich squad. He will have to revamp the squad.
Either how the squad needs to be revamped, but
yeah,
Lucas Hernandez and forward, they don't sound like his signings.
Yep. And moreover, I doubt Jose Mourinho will ever go to a club which is already a pretty big name or has the league in the pocket right now, because he has a reputation of building clubs. He has a reputation of getting clubs from second, third, fourth position to the first position, from getting round of 16 to the finals of UCL or semi-finals of UCL at least. So,
but maybe that's what he needs right now. It'll help his reputation. Maybe
I see, but because Bayern Munich is also in a struggling phase right now, so it may make sense. So, but
also,
the
I think such a club will help him in the UCL. Like if he knows the league is done and dusted, or where he has a lot of control over the league, he's liable to do better in the UCL. He's done that for, he's done that with Inter Milan, and even I would say to an extent he's done that with Real Madrid. I know when he was playing. When he was coaching Real Madrid, I would say the league was done and dusted because Guardiola was playing amazing. But he knew that whatever happens, they would never go below second. So he was able to focus on the UCL. I think the same thing he can do with Bayern.
Yeah, but he won the league with 100 points and 121 goals, and that's phenomenal. But another team which is rumored for Jose Mourinho is Paris Saint-Germain, but and he also talked about Mbappe and saying if he was in my squad, I wouldn't ever bother about him because you cannot really buy him. He's unbuyable and all that stuff. So, do you think he'll link over there?
I don't think so because Qatar has always wanted to play, or the Qatar group has always wanted to play a very attacking brand of football. Uh, However you look at it, whether it's right, false, however you want to see it, Jose Mourinho goes with the reputation, and I think they will still give Tuchel one more year.
Possible. And Jose recently said that he was criticized for his philosophy, and he said they don't know my philosophy. Paul Scholes doesn't know my philosophy. I play very pragmatic football. I play with the players I have, the best football I can play, and it's not really about defending. And he said that I got my park the bus attitude or park the bus reputation when I scored 100 and 120 goals with Real Madrid, and that's
I don't think he's as bad as people portray him to be. I definitely don't think he's as bad as people portray him to be. But on the other hand, especially with Manchester United, it is difficult to judge him because the only thing you can judge him on is the fact that he fell out with his players. So that's a theme that has been happening multiple times, and for me that shows that he's not been able to adapt himself to the new generation of players. But I don't think so. His philosophy, the way he is winning or the way he has won, is outdated or anything. I think you can still win like that, and he was not able to implement it at Manchester United. He's the kind of coach you need to give your full backing to, even if he makes some mistakes. I would, for example, people say that a lot of the players that he signed did not do well for Manchester United, like Lindelof, Bailey, Mkhitaryan, etc. But that same thing is true for Pep also. He got Bravo, who was hopeless. Otamendi did not play that great. I don't think Otamendi was his signing, but there were other players also that did not play that well, like Nolito and some other players that did not play that well, and then they still backed him the next season. So he's the kind of coach that needs to be backed. And to be fair, he was just 2 players away from getting the ideal signings that he wanted. In the second season, he wanted a left winger, which is Perisic. But for some reason, they did not want to give it. And I felt one of the main reasons for that is because they wanted to keep Martial. And for his last season, they did not want to give him a centre back. More specifically, they did not want to give him Alderweireld, which makes sense because he's 29 maybe, I don't know. But if you are going to give him a contract extension, then you should back him. Else don't give him the contract extension at all. They should have sacked him at the end of the second season if they were not planning to buy the players that he wanted. So I don't know. And he got a lot of stick over Sanchez. Sanchez is not still not been playing good under OGS. Literally the entire Manchester United squad is playing better under OGS except Sanchez. So I don't know how much you can blame Mourinho for it also. So in my point of view, his method is not outdated. His issue is his man management, which does not seem to go well with the current generation of players. That's something he needs to adapt to.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And yeah, it is time to move on because the next generation is quite different and they are quite sensitive as well. So you cannot just pull on the hairdryer technique of Alex Ferguson and expect the same results as Cantona or other Beckham or other players would pull up their socks, because these players will go to the agents and get you sacked, and another season they will leave, just like Pogba is trying to leave now. So I don't think it's healthy for the players or the coach or the management, but we have to adapt to it. It's the new trend now. So moving on, San Siro and Vincente Calderon, 2 iconic stadiums, are on the verge of being demolished. Vincente Calderon is already being demolished right now, and San Siro will be demolished by the end of this season, I guess.
Money talks.
Yep. So
basically, yeah, definitely
so much of history, so much of legacy for so many teams.
But eventually, at the end of the day, money talks. It's good for them also. I think both clubs, both AC Milan and Inter Milan, will probably benefit from the additional revenue that they get. Tottenham has also moved to a new club, and so many teams are looking into moving to new stadiums or upgrading their stadiums, including Bernabeu. So there's a lot
and Camp Nou.
Yeah. So there's a lot of push towards getting more seats, more revenue. And that's just how modern football is right now.
Yeah, I have never really been to Camp Nou, but I heard by some of the fans who went there, and they were saying like it's too expensive for everyone. The tickets are too expensive, and the stadium is not really that good. It needs some renovation. It needs to be upgraded. The seats aren't good. The comfort level is not really up to the mark, and it's falling behind in the technology and the architecture and all this stuff. Similar to Real Madrid, it's more like they need a roof, they need some fancy lights, they need some more restaurants and shops and all that. It's more of a business point of view, but Camp now is more of a desperate kind of thing because it's really outdated this year. I haven't been to it, but from the talks of people or culés, I should say, it's really it's really in the verge of it's on the verge of dying. So yeah, they need to they need to do something about it.
Yeah, but that's just how modern football is now. You need more. Even basically, the squads, the size of the squad and the quality of squad is improved. Look at look at the period when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a player. He was the backup to players like York and Cole. Today, you need to have Sanchez, Martial, Rashford, Lukaku. These four strikers are not good enough.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the kind of, not only that you need to have a good first team player, you need to have an equally good backup player,
Yeah.
and you should be able to split minutes between both of them so that both are happy. So it's quite difficult, and obviously the fees and everything involved. So yeah, that's just how it's gonna be. I wouldn't be surprised. There'll be more and more clubs that will start moving to bigger stadiums, and more clubs whose current stadiums will start to get demolished.
Yeah, it's also on the fact that football is globalizing and there are many fans and tourists who travel and they also want some tickets. And the seasonal fans, because of the demand, have to pay more, and which is not a healthy sign. And then you see football isn't worth a penny without its fans and all those banners in the stadiums and all that stuff. And recently, like Bayern Munich, Barcelona was charging 150 euros to Manchester United fans for the away tickets, I guess, something like that, and which is pretty petty as a fan because I don't think the tickets should exceed $50 or $60 mark or 50 or 60 euro mark, which is the ideal season ticket or one-time ticket for a not for the first row, of course, but yeah, for the fans who can afford it.
But that's also another technique for them to basically improve the home crowd. And I think in Barcelona's case, they have not gotten out of the quarterfinals for quite long, so I guess they're ready to throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink.
Yeah, it is. But let's see how it works, and whatever works fine for the fans. But on the contrary, Manchester United also increased their price for the away tickets, I guess, something like that.
I think that was in a response to what Barcelona did.
Yeah, so they also increased the same price, and
It's the
somehow
same thing.
they will say,
They just
yeah.
don't want a lot of away fans. For
Yeah,
their
but they
home match.
already have limited seats for the away fans.
I know, but they price it so high so that those seats are not bought.
Yeah, that is interesting. I remember 2 or 3 years ago in Clasico, Barcelona only had like 500 tickets for Real Madrid fans. It was a La Liga game only, but it was interesting that Barcelona has the capacity of 90,000, 99,000. I don't remember exactly.
Close to 90,000.
Yeah. No, it's 98,000 or something like that, and only 500 tickets for the away team, and that's pretty petty.
But normally, most sites do that for away teams, especially in big matches. They reserve less number of tickets, but still, a lot of these tickets, are actually bought by Barcelona fans and given to Real Madrid fans also. Some of
Yeah,
them.
that's like the black
Yeah.
black market and all the
Mm.
stuff. And that's you see, if I go as a neutral fan and I purchase them, how do they know that I am a Real Madrid fan or a Barcelona fan? Unless and until they have given those tickets to the club, and that's how it works. But
I think that's what they
Yeah.
mean. Like, there are certain number of tickets that probably can be sold via Real Madrid's official site. or something like that.
that's the only thing. So if I want to enter as a fan and I am Real Madrid fan, I can just enter straight away. So
You could actually purchase the ticket of the Barcelona side.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that works how it works. And do you have anything to say before we finish off the podcast?
No, it was great fun. Until next time.
Yep. So club football is back this weekend, and before we finish, it's Ramos' birthday. Happy birthday! As a Real Madrid
Happy
fan,
birthday,
you will
Cappy.
be. Yeah, Capi, and he turns 32. And before we finish all, let's talk about Figo's comments on Ramos for a few minutes.
I don't think he'll win the Ballon d'Or. I don't think so. Defender can easily win the Ballon d'Or anytime.
Again, for those who are living under the rock, Luis Figo came out and said Ramos is a world-class defender and deserves a Ballon d'Or. But it's not possible this season, but maybe in the coming seasons, as he said, Cannavaro was able to do it, and maybe Ramos will be able to do it.
I think in those times it was still easier to do because there wasn't any sort of there weren't players at that point of time who were scoring 40-50 goals. Now I think there are more players. Like I know Cristiano and Messi has been doing for 10 years, but you can still see other players also start hitting 35 range easily. Salah, Mbappe, Neymar if he's fit,
Kane.
Kane, I'm not sure he'll hit 35 because basically Tottenham don't have the power to pull that much. But I'm saying there are a lot of other teams that can hit. There's a lot of social media presence involved.
Even
in this.
Aguero, I guess, is nearing that mark.
So there's a lot of social media presence also involved and hype that is required for you to actually win the award. It's no longer like. First of all, Ballon d'Or doesn't make sense to me because how do you differentiate between say a defender and a striker? Like how many goals is equivalent to say a tackle?
Yeah, that's what Philip Lahm said, because you can have awards for each position, but as a whole player, that's not possible. And I was reading some quotes about Johan Cruyff, not about Johan Cruyff, but by Johan Cruyff, and he was saying that in golf you have like a coach for each stroke, and in football you have one coach for 15 players, and that's absurd. And I guess it's true, because if scoring a goal is important, but on the same hand saving a goal is important, because if your team is 1-0 down, then it's a big problem. So how do you say that a goalkeeper is less important than the attacker, or how do you say the attacker or midfielder is more important than a defender? Or it doesn't really make sense, because football isn't really about scoring goals. It's also about running, it's also about creating chances, it's also about opening the field space or closing down the space, closing down the lanes. Sometimes you don't even have to touch the ball to execute an excellent skill or have an impact. Yeah, exactly. So if I close down a passing lane for someone, I'm doing great, I'm doing my job. And so how do you really compare that? So
I cannot compare it. I always said that the best way is to, instead of choosing one player, is to choose a team. Even that doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, World 11 is kind of closing to closest to the best version we can get, because
it still doesn't solve the problem. I say it
exactly,
because let's say if you in the same year you have, say for example, let's say you have Roberto Carlos and Paolo Maldini. They both play the same position, but they have two different roles in their teams.
Exactly.
Two different playing styles.
Exactly.
How do you differentiate that also?
Exactly. Now Pep Guardiola has created this inverted fullback stuff. So how do you compare the inverted fullback to a traditional fullback or orthodox fullback?
Correct.
So
But they play almost like they play sometimes the centre back instead of playing as a full-time winger. So before there used to be an attacking fullback, there used to be a regular, I guess, defensive fullback, and then now there's inverted fullback where he doesn't go up front a lot, but he plays in midfield as a central midfielder.
Also, we have like endless number of positions in football. Like we have a cam position, and not a lot of teams use it. So when you are selecting a World 11, which formation do you select? Because if you are going for 4-3-3 with a central defensive midfielder, and you are not talking about the attacking midfielder, and someone like Isco or De Bruyne or someone out there is playing in that role and is executing it phenomenally, and you are not even considering that position. So how do you really say that? It's not really fair in a team sport to talk about individual honors as much.
That's why I said, even though, but I would still prefer a World 11 rather a single Ballon d'Or award.
Yep, that's true. But Ballon d'Or is more about hype right now, and like
I think for a defender to win it, first of all, even to generate that hype, he needs to have a lot behind him. So for a defender to win it, I don't think so he can win it in a Euro or World Cup year.
Yeah.
Then if he wants to have a better chance, he needs to be a European player so that he can also have the European into it, because
Yep.
if you win the Copa America, I don't think he'll get the same hype.
Yep.
So he needs to have basically won something for his club, like the league or the Champions League, and
You know
then
what? Copa
to win
America
this.
will have hype if it is for Neymar or for Messi, not for the other players.
I think for Messi it might have hype because he's not won so much that they might. But even then, I'm not sure how much hype it'll have. It depends on who's the competition.
Yeah.
So, but for Neymar and Messi, the fact that they need this to create hype for them, even though their attackers, shows how hard it is for a defender.
Yeah, that is true. And you see, Modric won the Ballon d'Or after the hype was created against the Russian match when both Ronaldo and Messi were out of the World Cup. And Modric put on a 10 on 10 performance in that match, and I was just surprised to see how he ran for 120 minutes and he created a ruckus on the field. Like
But-
he was playing as a left back, he was playing as a left winger, he was playing as the left mid, he was playing in the right mid also for some part of the game, and he was literally everywhere. He was the defender, he was the midfielder, he was the attacker, he was doing each and everything possible to get his team through. And I think it was noted only after Ronaldo and Messi were eliminated from the World Cup, and it was then against England also, because English media is the epitome of media hype. So if you defeat England and put on a masterclass and then go on to say that we shut your mouths, like you disrespected us, now we have shown that we have war veterans and we have survived so much in our childhood and now on. So it is really about the hype, I guess, in the end. And maybe if in 2020 Real Madrid win the treble, which is, I don't know if it is possible or not, but hypothetically if they win the World Cup and Spain go on to win the Euro 2020, then Ramos may have a chance. And especially if it is against England side in final or something like that, or like suppose he beats Manchester United in the quarterfinals, then in semi-finals he beats Liverpool, and then in the finals he beats Manchester City or Tottenham or whatever, and then in the World Cup, and then when in the Euro final he beats England, then it's pretty much Ramos, I guess.
But even then, I would say a lot of other things need to happen. For example, in Modric's case, I know the World Cup helped him, but think about it. Ronaldo did not have a great first half of the season, and Messi had a very bad second half of the season. When I say second half of the season, he obviously was he lost against Roma.
Yeah, that's
and
why
had a bad World Cup. So I
that's why
think
we were
all that
saying-
needs to happen for a defender to win, and for a goalkeeper, I think some miracle needs to happen.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that World Cup year would be very deciding key factor for the Ballon d'Or race in that year, in the last year. So yeah, this season I don't think it will be from. I think this season it's again from Messi or Ronaldo, because I don't see anyone else winning it or even close to the hype right now.
I think right now, currently, if you speak, I think Messi has a slight advantage,
Yeah,
statistically speaking.
has, he
Mainly
has.
statistically speaking. But of course, if let's say Juve win the Champions League,
Then Ronaldo will
then
go.
Ronaldo
Yeah,
has a very, very good chance.
exactly.
The only way I see it is if there's going to be some competition, if neither Barcelona nor Juve win the Champions League, and say like a Man City or Liverpool, somebody wins the UCL, then it'll be a little more tight race.
It will be. But if Manchester City win everything, then I guess it will be a strong case for Manchester City players as well, because you never know. Eventually it's about the hype, and you almost get to predict every single time that who will be winning it, because all the players come out and comment about it, all the pundits come out and comment about it, the agents come out and comment about it, and each year, even if the fans are rooting for their own player, like Ronaldo fans will be saying, okay, Ronaldo deserves it, even if he had a trophyless season, he had a great individual season and stuff. It's interesting how trophies matter and don't matter each year, because depending on if their player won the trophy or not. So similarly, even if they are backing their own player, deep inside they know that it's not really happening, that if Messi was good and Messi won the trophies, they know that Messi is going to win the Ballon d'Or, even if they don't want to admit it publicly. So it's really quite simple to predict the winner nowadays, after like July and August
That's
days.
why I feel that if there is like a equilibrium in trophies won,
Yeah.
then it's difficult.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's see because the hype of English media is good enough, and if someone from Manchester City wins, if Manchester City wins the Champions League and wins every trophy this season, the quadruple, which is phenomenal achievement, and then it is pretty much done for City. I guess it will be someone from City. Maybe
see.
Aguero, maybe De Bruyne, maybe someone else. I don't know. Maybe.
Let's see.
So, any last comments?
Nah, thank
Nah.
you.
So, thank you for listening, and we'll see you probably next week after the commencement of club football. And adios.
Adios.